He may have been born in Britain, but now his heart is America's. It's your favorite legal immigrant, President Trump's former strategist, Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
So I have spoken to New Yorkers from all across this state, and it doesn't matter whether you're middle income, you're from upstate, downstate, you're getting hit with new tax hikes now. It hurt about the public safety and cashless bail. So after talking to New Yorkers who feel like this is a last stand, a last great opportunity to save New York, and the fact that to save our state, Andrew Cuomo's got to go, I'm announcing here this morning on your show that I'm running for governor of New York in 2022, and we are going to win this race. I'm all in. We're all in. Losing is not an option, and we have to turn things around.
So excited for our good friend, combat veteran, congressman for the 1st Congressional District of New York. He was on the show earlier today, Lee Zeldin. He's running against Andy Cuomo to save the state of New York. If you want to listen to that interview, you know what you have to do. You may subscribe to the podcast. It's free. Check out our YouTube channel. You can hear the interview, all of our segments, best monologues. Just look for America First, Sebastian Gorka. Subscribe, hit the notifications bell twice, and you'll never miss a thing. And just in case, because you've got to have a plan B. And they just don't respect the First Amendment. Also, subscribe to our Rumble channel, rumble.com/Seb Gorka. That's rumble.com/SEBGORKA. Good news from Iowa. Good news from Idaho. Iowa's governor says that she is taking executive action against vaccine passports. Idaho becomes the 4th state to ban vaccine passports. It's happening, guys. Keep the pressure on, and we will get our freedoms back. Okay. Here to be filed under the Beyond the Believable is a report jointly from the Washington Free Beacon and The Blaze. I'm reading from Sarah Taylor of The Blaze. By the way, what happened to the Colorado shooter? What happened to that story? The man who was called Alyssa. Oh, you mean the Muslim from Syria, whose name is actually Al-Issa. Where is that story? What about 6 days ago, Billy Evans, U.S. Capitol Police officer, murdered on Good Friday? Here's your latest update. The individual who killed him before he was put down like a rabid dog was a member of the Nation of Islam, somebody called Noah Green. Have the Nation of Islam disowned him? Have they said he's not a member? Au contraire, au contraire. We're going to give you the incredible statement from Louis Farrakhan's organization after we talk to a man who's going to give us an update on what is really going on in Georgia. This individual is last time I saw him was in the Oval Office. Is that correct? John Fredericks, are you there?
I'm with the one and only, the one and great Seb Gorka. What an honor it is to be on your show, Seb. You're doing God's work, I got to tell you. And yes, the last time we saw each other was at the Oval Office with the president sitting right there in front of him.
Hang on. You got to clarify that. Which president?
President Trump.
Thank you. I didn't want anybody to be confused. 45.
And he brought in a handful of his most trusted inner circle people in media that have been with him from the beginning. And, of course, you serve with him. And it was a very intimate meeting. We had those, I think, 3 times with him, Seb.
It was a fabulous meeting, and he gave us a background. It was very apt. I remember the topic now for the one where you and I were there. It was conservative radio hosts, and he gave us an off-the-record. Sometimes he slipped onto on-the-record background. We got briefed by the president. Can you believe this? On the situation on the border, sitting there on the sofa, on the couch in the Oval Office, and that's where I saw you last. He's John Fredericks. Follow him, JF Radio Show. He's a radio host and TV TV host who's outside the Beltway, which is a good thing. John, I have to get you on the show because I've got the best producer out there, and he's been listening to you, saying this is the one guy who understands what is going on in Georgia. Can you tell us the truth about this new bill and the significance of what's happening as a consequence?
Yes. Number one, Seb, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Is this bill perfect? Could it have been better? Yes. Is it a good bill that will get the job done? Absolutely. Here's the one question to ask. If this bill, which was just passed 2 weeks ago, if it was enacted in 2019, the question is, would it have affected the result in Georgia?
And?
If this bill had passed in 2019, here's the answer. President Trump wins in a landslide, those 16 electoral votes, and David Perdue beats John Ossoff on the first ballot, and he's in the U.S. Senate. That's what would have happened if this bill passed.
So explain to us, John, what it protects and what are the issues it has now solidified that we should see across the nation.
There's four major things, Seb, with this bill that should be a blueprint. Now, some states have it, but those that don't. Number one is you cannot get an absentee ballot without an identification number, either your driver's license or a state-issued ID. If that ID that does not match what's on your application and the address, you simply cannot get a ballot through the mail, period.
So number one, it makes sure that only real voters get a ballot. That sounds like a pretty reasonable thing.
It's very reasonable. I mean, look, Seth, you have to show an ID to get a pack of cigarettes. You got to show an ID to get on a Greyhound bus. You got to show an ID to do it. To come in our studio, you got to have an ID. Right? You got to have an ID for everything. And they made the IDs free, so if you don't have an ID, you can get one free. So that's number one. You have to submit an ID number. That ballot has to match it. Otherwise, it's rejected. You can't have it. Second thing, and this is big, drop boxes and ballot harvesting, gone. People say, oh, it didn't get rid of the drop boxes. Yes, it did, in theory, because they put the drop boxes only in the early voting locations.
Yeah.
Secured. So you have to, if you want to put it in a drop box instead of handing it to the clerk, fine. You still have to go in there, and you can either hand it to the clerk or put it in the box. But you can't harvest votes the way it was done. You can't get these without any chain of custody the way it was done. So that's gone. The drop boxes become not drop boxes, but simply a place to put your ballot in lieu of handing it to a clerk because you're afraid of COVID-19 or whatever it might be.
Right.
That's the second thing it did. Third thing, equally as big, number three, is that in Georgia, they expanded the times that you can vote, early voting. They expanded it on the weekend, so you have a month, you have that. But here's what they did. You cannot apply for an absentee ballot after 11 days prior. So as soon as you hit 11 days, your application is rejected. You're going to have to go vote on game day, where you have to show your ID, prove that you're there. Here's the other thing it did. This is also big. You can't vote in Georgia on election day in another precinct. You have to go to your precinct.
Such racism. You can't vote where you shouldn't be voting?
Unbelievable. Except they did a provision, except if it's after 5 p.m. and you're caught in traffic, you can put in a provisional ballot. But if it's 2 p.m. or 10 a.m., you simply can't do it because you have to vote in your precinct like everybody has done forever. So these are just some of the key. I mean, I could go on. It's a 98-page bill. But the fact of the matter is it's the blueprint for states going forward to get rid of the level of voter fraud that we saw.
That's fascinating. So you think this is good enough to be the blueprint?
Yes. Look, it doesn't eliminate machines. They tried to do that, and that couldn't get out of committee. They spent $110 million on them. But look, everybody's aware now
Right.
of what is some of the irregularities.
We've had that alarm call. We've had that Sputnik moment. John Fredericks of WJFN and WMLB. We go to the people who have the answers, and he's just given them to you. We have a blueprint for election integrity, and it is not HR1. Follow him now, JF Radio Show on Twitter. Thank you, John. Hope to see you back in the Oval Office after 2024. This is America First.